Looking to improve your life, brush up on your personal growth techniques? You are in the right place. Welcome to Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap.
Hello everybody, this is Kevin Dunlap with Life's Little Lessons, and welcome back to our show. I am so glad that you're here with us today, because today I have a gentleman with us that is an absolutely astounding individual. This is a man that I met a few years ago at a charity event or charity fundraising event, and I have come across his path in mastermind settings, other meetup settings, and this is a gentleman that I highly look up to. I am so glad that he's on our show today because he's done so much. Not originally from this country, he was originally from Belgium. But however, he came to the U.S. as a Cirque de Soleil performer. And he is just an amazing individual. So I want to welcome to the show today, Vital Germaine. Vital, welcome to the show.
No, it's my pleasure, Kevin, and thank you for the very kind words. It's an honor to know you too. And I'm glad that we did connect that one time. It's really great to understand more about what you're doing, and I love your platform, and let's see what we can do today and how we can inspire people to live a better life.
So we actually met a few years ago at a friend of mine's charity event, is that correct?
Yes.
And then we happened to just have to reconnect at a mastermind, and then we met up at, coincidentally at 2 or 3 different meetup functions, and our paths just keep crossing.
Yeah, now you can't get rid of me.
I can't get rid of you. So tell me, Vital, tell me a little bit about what is it that you do? Why are you called engaged, and how did you get started doing that?
What I'm currently doing now is giving keynotes for predominantly the corporate world, corporate America, and another platform that I communicate my message is through training. So it really ties down to somewhat the same message. I'm trying to inspire people to live a better life, to fulfill their potential and simply become better human beings, better leaders, better parents, better friends. And that translates to, again, the corporate world, but also for people on a more personal level. So the message is the same, slightly tweaked depending on the market that I'm addressing that particular moment.
So how did you get into corporate training? How did you start doing that?
Well, leadership has been a position that I've held coincidentally, instinctually throughout my life in different capacities, whether it was being a class captain back in high school or elementary school. I was always put in these positions of leadership, and that transgressed throughout my life. Then I joined Cirque du Soleil, and the same thing, I was put in a position of being a captain for my team. And through the years that I worked in Cirque du Soleil, I learned so much about team dynamics, leadership, inspiring people to become better than who they are, creativity, customer experience. And then I just leveraged all those experiences and packaged them. And after I left Cirque du Soleil, I actually started, my first company was an entertainment company. So I would produce theatrical events, again, for corporate and for theaters around the US and internationally. And after doing that for about 9 years, I got to a place of burnout. I'm sure everybody who's listening right now, we've all reached that moment of, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I'm tired. I don't get up in the morning with the same love and passion. And for me, if I don't have the passion to do something, perhaps it's the signal that I should no longer be doing it. And I then took 6 months away from life. I didn't go up into the hills and meditate in a temple, but I just took time to be introspective and understand what's my next step. And through that moment of introspection, I really discovered a stronger sense of purpose than I'd ever had before. And I realized that everything that I'd been doing really came down to what I now wanted to do, which again was to inspire and empower people to overcome their challenges, their obstacles, and live the life that we all dream about. And then so now it was a question of, okay, how do I become a speaker? How do I become a corporate trainer? And then I sat down and cried because I'm like, this is overwhelming. It's intimidating. How am I going to figure this out? And please help me. And then you just get to it. You start one baby step at a time. And then I come across people like yourself who guide you, who give you insight on what you need to do. And I just focused and stayed committed on a consistent basis. And eventually that dream becomes true.
Wow, okay, that was a truly inspiring story. Now, I've seen some pictures of you on large stages before. But what was I guess when we were first starting out, how big was your stages and how big are they now? Or what is your largest stage?
The biggest stage that I ever performed on was actually at the Grand Garden Arena, MGM, 4,000 people.
As a speaker, not as a performer.
As a speaker. And it was amazing in the sense that it reconnected me to my entertainment world. I actually realized that the entertainer in me is still very much alive when I give a keynote. I want to entertain, I want to inform, I want to inspire. And so I do thrive on the element of the stage and the lights and the larger audience. But there are moments when I'm training and sometimes it's only 5 people.
Okay.
It's equally fulfilling, but one is just, there's an exchange, and you as a speaker, you'll understand this. When you're dealing with an audience and it's live, there's a give and take. You give energy to the audience and they give you energy back, and this cycle. And hopefully that cycle gains momentum and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the impact becomes of more value. But I still do like the stage. Yes, I do.
Okay.
So were you comfortable being back on stage as a speaker rather than doing this as a performer?
I am very comfortable on the stage. In the beginning, however, there was the fear of I've been communicating a message through the use of my body, through the use of choreography, acrobatics, theater, dance. So even though I'm comfortable up on stage communicating, I had to develop the tools and the skills to now use my voice and then also develop my own content. As an acrobat in Cirque du Soleil, I'm delivering somebody else's message, somebody else's creativity. I'm a tool, a pawn. And then as a speaker, now author, I've developed my message. So there's more at stake now.
Now, one thing that we haven't yet mentioned yet is that you're also an author, and your name of your first book, I believe, is called Flying Without a Net. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm very proud. Well, I'm very proud to say that was an Amazon top seller. So for my first book, not a bad start.
Flying Without a Net, you said was being sold on Amazon. Could you tell us a little bit about what is that book about, and can they still get it online?
Yes, they can definitely get it. It's available on Amazon. They can go to my website, which I know you'll give me the opportunity to share. It's vitalgermaine.com in short, but we'll share that again later. The book, so the title unto itself is a metaphor for having the courage to spread your wings and fly even if there is no net. In other words, take the risk. Okay. Have the faith, the belief that when you jump out the window, your wings will emerge before you hit the ground. And it also ties into, in Cirque du Soleil, I literally did fly without a net on the bungee trapeze. So it was a perfect title to tie in what I did and what I'm doing and what I want people to achieve.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I knew you were part of the Cirque shows, but I did not know exactly what you did with those shows. And this is very interesting how we can get stuff from one industry and apply it in another industry. That is something that is evident in my life, and it is evident, and I believe, in the listeners' lives as well. And for my case in point, I used to do stunt work back in Wilmington, North Carolina, but for both stage and as well as film. However, if you can look over my head right now, you can see 2 plays that I did. One was Hamlet and one was Macbeth, of which I was the fight choreography for.
Benefit from it. For my example, is I had my background, or some of my background before I moved to Las Vegas, was I used to do stunt work for independent films. I have, for those of you that are watching the video, I have 2 shows over my head of Hamlet and Macbeth, two performances back in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I was the fight choreographer for. Wow. And I learned from that all about taking risks. It's like you said, flying without a net is. It's like, if I was afraid to do something, and I'd say this is a film, I was about to do a stunt, I'm kind of afraid. When the director says action, you got to go.
You just,
you just got to go.
Yeah.
And you just, and And I've had this discussion on a few different other people's shows that I've been on. It's because a lot of people talk about fear, and we'll talk about your fears and stuff like that a little bit later in the show. But they're always talking about we have to eliminate fear. I don't know. We've not had this conversation, and I would say that's complete BS. You can never eliminate fear. Is you have to control the fear.
Yes. Yeah.
So
well, fear can work in two ways. It can paralyze us. It can actually. It's one of the greatest motivators. Love is potentially the most powerful motivator, but fear is an incredible motivator. So the challenge is, how do you make fear your ally?
Okay.
And so that's the mental challenge that maybe we can get into a little bit later on. But you use the word choreography, and how did I take all these tools from one industry and apply them in others? I look at life as choreography. Choreography is basically a sequence of steps in order to create a big picture of life. We have to decide, when am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And what do I want the outcome to be? So literally everybody's choreographing their life. And so the principles that I learned in one industry, what works in one industry, if they are, again, the word principles, if they are principles, they will apply across the board in other industries. So the key is to decide, what did I learn from this? So athletes, for example, the fundamentals of teamwork in sports apply to the corporate world. The same cliches are there. There's trust, there's teamwork, there's collaboration, there's delegation. All those type of things happen on the sports field, and they happen in the corporate world. They happen in your family. So that's basically what I decided. What can I take from this experience, repackage it, reframe it, and deliver it slightly different, but the essence of the message is the same. So that transition wasn't actually as difficult as I initially thought.
So how did you go from being a stage performer, taking your 6 months off, and then start doing this whole corporate training thing? How was that? How did you make that transition?
I'm going to be honest. A lot of people sit down and they have this master plan and they know exactly where they wanted to go. I kind of knew in which direction I wanted to go. Another part of my life philosophy is, again, I kind of know where I want to go, but I'm more than happy and willing to adapt my sails to where the wind is taking me. So there's a combination of, that's where I want to go, but this is where life is steering me. So you try and combine those two, and hopefully you achieve the optimum outcome. So the master plan when I left the entertainment world was not, okay, I've got a plan, I'm going to be a corporate trainer, and I'm going to speak about this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to write a book. It just sort of, once you set an intention in life, you start to get tools that you can't know what you don't know. Right. So along that journey, you pick up information that guides you. So I started off wanting to just speak. I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about. I just knew that I had a message to share. And then in writing the book, I realized, okay, now I've got to get up and start verbally sharing what the book is about. That's how the talking began. And then I realized, okay, well, for the last 8 years, I was providing entertainment for the corporate world. So I kind of understood a little bit about the corporate environment. And then I realized, well, a lot of what I'm talking about, this is going to bring value to people in the corporate world. So why not share your message in that environment? So it basically was an organic process. And again, I wish I could say, no, it's the result of a master plan and I hit it on the nail. It just happened. With, of course, my intention.
So you had an idea and a basic idea where you wanted it to go, and then you just got started. Is that correct?
Yeah. And the same thing happened before joining Cirque du Soleil, I left Belgium, literally came to New York with nothing more than a dream in my pocket. I knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment world. At the time, I wanted to just be a dancer for companies like Alvin Ailey and things like that. Lo and behold, the universe presents this opportunity to run away with this zany, crazy circus that I'd never heard of. So now I have a choice. Okay, that didn't belong to my original plan, but this is an opportunity. Life is about seeing opportunities and understanding, okay, that's maybe not what I anticipated, but this is a path that perhaps I should entertain. And taking that risk and running away with this circus changed my life and changed my perspective on everything. So learn to be flexible in your plans.
So a question that just kind of popped in my head when you were explaining there, when the opportunity presented itself for you to do, like say, a Cirque show, do an acrobatic show, were you hesitant in doing this? If this is not where I've been trained, or did you say, or was that like a perfect timing saying this is exactly what I want?
No, I was totally hesitant. And in fact, another lesson that I learned from this thing is when I went to this one audition, I was not attached to the outcome. What did that mean? When I went to the audition, I was the most authentic Vital Germaine I'd probably ever been because I didn't care. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be cleaning up. I didn't know who Cirque de Soleil were. This is back in 1993. I'm thinking, Vital, you're going to run away with the circus. You're going to wear a red nose and oversized shoes. You're going to be cleaning up elephant dung and getting shot out of a cannon. That's what I thought the circus was. But I went to this audition thinking, what have I got to lose? And I clowned around at this audition. That was my saving grace. My inner child came to fruition. I was carefree, no inhibitions, and they loved me for being me. And usually in life, what do? We go into an environment and we're so concerned and worried about, I've got to do this properly and I've got to fit the part. No, just be yourself. And as a result of that, this wonderful opportunity came. And then to add to that story, they then offered me a position. And I'm like, you guys are out of your mind. I'm not joining the circus. They gave me tickets to go and see a show called Saltimbanco. And I was introduced to Cirque du Soleil, and I had this, like a spiritual awakening. It was one of the most amazing moments that I'd ever had. And I thought to myself, you blew this opportunity to be a part of this amazing production. And then coincidence had it, they came back with an actual better offer. And then I had this decision, okay, my dream in New York and running away with the circus. And I trusted my gut. At that moment, my intuition said, go run away with the circus, go wear a clown nose.
Okay, so I know one of the things that you do is some of your talks is with a red clown nose.
Yes. I'm actually not sitting on my regular desk. I always have a clown nose at my other desk in my other room. We'll get into that, but for me, the clown nose is a tool that reminds me to be open-minded, childlike, and free-spirited.
Okay, because that's a great prop that you have, and I believe the photo that we're going to be using for the cover of the show is you in, I think, in a suit with a clown nose on.
That clown nose has become one of the most remembered, talked about props that I use in trainings and keynotes, because it's one of those things that when people put on the clown nose, all the things that I talk about, being your most authentic self, not having inhibitions, being open-minded, being childlike, all of those things happen the minute people put on that clown nose. And then they surprise themselves as to, wow, the world is suddenly a better place because I feel free. And it's a kind of mentality. If we can carry that through life, being free, being open-minded, willing to take risks, a lot of really amazing things happen.
Okay, very good point. Because actually that's kind of inspired me. Because one of the things I talk about, because the parent name of my company is called Plentiful Perspectives, and it's all about how you look at things. And one of the things I was actually looking at, and this is one of the things I was going to talk to you about offline, is buying props and things like that. And one of the things that I talk about is how you look at the world, or we all look through the world through our own rose-colored glasses. So my glasses won't fit you, your glasses won't fit me, because all our glasses are all based upon our past experiences. So I was thinking about putting a talk together and buying a whole bunch of little different kind of rose-colored glasses and using those as a, hey, let's say you and your husband or you and your wife are having an argument, well, put on the glasses for a second. So how can I see this from another way? So
I agree. And actually, I think that's a fantastic idea, because life is about our perspective. How we see things determines the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so I actually thought that I didn't have my clown nose, but it was actually hiding behind my laptop. So there it is. So it just makes people playful. So, but anyway, I look forward to wearing one of your pink glasses and seeing what happens.
All right. Thank you. I guess let's go into like some of the successes that you had in getting started with your speaking business. Could you tell me about some of your early successes that you had? Maybe it was your first time on stage or your first opportunity.
I'd say that the first success and defining moment that I had, so in trying to figure out how to become a speaker, I joined an organization called Toastmasters. And if anybody out there is contemplating becoming a speaker, or anybody who feels they need to improve their communication skills, Toastmasters is fantastic. It really got me going in the direction. And so I remember my first speech that I needed to do, they call it an icebreaker. And the fear of public speaking apparently is the number one fear after death. It's called glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. People would rather burn to death than get up and speak in front of an audience. And so there I am having to do my first 5-minute presentation. And I remember my legs were shaking. I don't think anybody could see it, but my legs were literally shaking like this. I was sweating profusely and my mouth was dry and parched, but I made it through the presentation. And getting to that finish line was one of the most, a weight came off my shoulders. I kind of felt like I wanted to do a series of flips and dance. It was so empowering that I overcame one of my biggest fears. So that was my real first success moment in my career as a public speaker. And I'll never forget it.
Okay, because I've been to Toastmasters as well, and I've given the Icebreakers talk and one other talk, so I know exactly what you're talking about. For those of you that don't know what Toastmasters is,
so in the Icebreaker, you only have a few minutes to actually get your topic across, and I believe that is actually 3 to 5 minutes.
So you have 3 minutes. You have to be a minimum of 3 minutes, but you can't go for 5 minutes. And and like you said, it's a great tool to learn how to, number one, be on stage. Are you saying ums and uhs and those kinds of stammering words or not? And then also being able to do a timed talk. For an example, Vital could very easily be hired by, let's say, IBM, and he could be one of 20 people talking in an afternoon, and you always only give him 5 minutes to talk. If he goes up there and rambles on for 10 or 15 minutes, he's basically just got 2 other people that cannot talk now because the time frame won't allow it. So Toastmasters is great. It's about getting on stage, being in front of people. Now let me ask you this: how many people were you speaking in front of? Do you remember?
It was probably a room full of, let's say, 15 people.
Okay, that's a fairly decent size Toastmaster.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a plug for them. They're called I'll Drink to That Toastmasters. I think they're a fantastic group. I'd recommend them to anybody and everybody. But it really, I just did an somebody in Toastmasters would be writing that down to correct me. It was a defining moment for me because it made me realize that, yes, I do love doing this. Once I got past the finish line, I realized I love doing this. It felt like home. And now it's just a question of going back, refining the skills, developing content, understanding what my true message is and narrowing it down. But again, it was a magical moment and one of my biggest achievements.
Fantastic. And actually, I've attended I Will Drink to That, the Toastmasters group, a couple of times because we have a mutual friend or a couple of mutual friends that are part of that group. And one of the things I would suggest, I don't see many people do this, and I actually did this on both of my talks at Toastmasters, is actually I videotaped myself.
Yeah.
The reason that you're going to want to use the camera is because that camera is going to give you feedback in the future so that whenever you're reviewing it, even though that counter or the counter tells you how many times you said that, you're not really going to improve better unless you actually see how you're using it in the sentences. Plus, it gives you great feedback as to your body movements. What are you doing up there? Are you swaying back and forth, pacing in circles, or what is it that you're doing? The camera will give you great feedback so that you can actually improve yourself.
I agree with you there, and I would suggest also to anybody and everybody in any capacity where you are speaking in front of a group, if you are the manager at a restaurant and you're speaking to your shift that morning and trying to get them motivated and on the same page, people need to become very aware of not just the words that they're using in their arms, but their body language. 58%, Albert Moravian says this, that 58% of our communication is body language. And Toastmasters made me very aware beyond just what I'm saying on my ums and ahs. What is my body communicating? Are you communicating confidence? Are you communicating patience, understanding, empathy? All these type of things are really, really crucial in terms of how we communicate with the world. And again, it applies on a personal level.
Well, I came across Vital at another speaking group that meets once a month here in Vegas. And one thing that he said to me during a previous talk of mine was that I do like little circle pacing. He said, because when I see you talk, you don't walk at all. Well, you just say solid and just give.
Well, it depends. I adapt. There are times when you do need to move to create maybe energy or go to the other side of the room. But yes, I've learned the skill that if I decide I'm staying put and I'm going to be solid and my statement is I'm grounded, then yes, I'm not going to move. So yeah, you caught that.
You mentioned it to me, and then the last time I think we were at the speaking engagement, I was giving I think a 3-minute talk or something like that, and I realized like a minute in, oh my gosh, and you were in the audience, and I looked right at you. I'm sure you didn't know that I was thinking about this. I started thinking like, oh, I'm moving too much. So for the rest of the talk, I was actually stationary. So.
It's a good exercise for anybody. Again, communicating in any capacity, learn to ground yourself and make a decision that I'm going to be solid and stand still and stand straight and stand proud. And people will receive your message from a place of confidence from you. So just a little tip for everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, speaking about that, now when you were first getting started, what were some of the fears that were in front of you, and what did you have to overcome in order to become this corporate trainer? And I knew you were afraid because you said you were shaking at your first Toastmasters talk. But what were some of the big fears that you had overcome?
I think we all have these same fears in life. Am I going to be accepted? Is my message going to be of value to these people? Are they going to fall asleep and start yawning? Am I going to forget what I'm communicating? And these are all the same fears that I had years of performing in different capacities. You always hope, am I going to have a good show? There's a quality to that, though, and I think it means that I cared. I cared for my audience as well as I cared for the value of my own performance. And so that was the biggest fear is, am I going to be of value to these people? Are they going to throw tomatoes and boo me off? So you're aware of that, but then through the doing comes the confidence, because after X amount of speeches, you start to understand this works for me. These are my go-to tools. If this doesn't work, I know that I have this as a backup. But again, that translates to life in general. What are your strengths? What are your backup plans when things don't go right? How quickly are you able to adapt when things aren't going right? And then the biggest key is, if it doesn't go right, you haven't failed. It's a matter of learning from that experience, growing, moving forward.
Okay. And I've actually said that before as well. There's no such thing as failure, just feedback. So, and your perception is what makes it a failure or not on that.
But let me quickly share this little secret. So after doing over 2,000 shows in Cirque, and every keynote or corporate workshop that I give, there is an element of fear. Not that I'm afraid that I'm not going to do well, but there's this excitement, this adrenaline that I want to be the best that I can possibly be. So fear can actually be a good thing because it keeps me on my toes.
Mm-hmm. And from my stunt days, yes, fear is what kept me on my toes. It's one of these things that some of the other stunt performers and I had talked about before was once you become fearless, you become dangerous.
I agree. Yes, because then there's nothing at stake. There's no consideration of consequences. It becomes almost reckless.
Yes.
So I prefer the word courageous over fearless, because courage is having fear but still moving forward.
So what were some of your early challenges or some of your early setbacks?
The biggest challenge that I have or had is, there I am trying to become a keynote speaker, trainer in a corporate world. Look at me. I don't have your typical standard generic corporate look, corporate energy. And so in the beginning, that was my biggest fear, that how on earth are they ever going to welcome me into this world that I don't belong in or I don't fit into? Then I had a perspective shift and I realized, no, wait a minute. The fact that I'm different, that's why they need to hire me, because they need, business climates are changing faster now than they have ever done in human history. So people are looking for the new, the different. How do we approach things in an innovative way? And I hope that that's what I bring to the table. So then I started to think, okay, I am different, but that's my power, that's my magic. And so what was initially a challenge, again, became an opportunity.
Okay. And I'm glad that you're saying that, because a lot of people I think that are either watching or listening to this show will come up with ideas like, okay, this is, I can't do this because of blank. I can't do that because of blank. And you can actually change that to be by changing your focus on it, you can actually make that into a positive. As an example, let's say the guy, Colonel Sanders. Well, I can't start a business because I'm too old. Well, the fact that you're aged and you have all this previous history of work experience and your tenacity makes you a perfect example of why you should be starting a business. Or where the flip side says, I am too young. Well, no, you got virile, you got energy, you've got you have an attitude of never quitting. So whatever your challenge is, whatever your self-imposed challenge is, can just look at it as, how can I reframe this so that I can actually use this as a positive?
Yeah, I like the word you use there, reframe. That's what we need to do in life. And shift. There's also a focus shift. So, and I do this oftentimes, and some of the things that I teach, I have to remind myself also to implement them. But oftentimes we're faced with a problem and we focus on the problem. The key is acknowledge the problem, focus on the solution. It's easier said than done, but when we shift that perspective, or where our energy goes, again, we'll find new opportunities present themselves.
Okay, and I do the exact same thing. As I preach to focus on the solution rather than the problem, but a lot of times I catch myself, okay, I'm still focusing on this problem. I need to shift my energy, because once you shift your energy to focusing on the solution, that's when your brain starts working like how to solve that problem. So regardless of whatever it is.
And so tell me, Vital, what about some of your recent or your more current challenges that you're going through right now? Would you like to share some of those?
Yeah, I think the challenge that I face is probably a very common challenge as an entrepreneur, is how do you get your message out there in terms of marketing and promotion and leveraging internet and creating a bigger network? That's always a challenge in terms of how do you scale a company. You've got to, again, take risks and understand the business of your industry. So yeah, expansion, growth is always a challenge, and I'm learning every day. We do attend some similar mastermind groups. Anybody, if you're not in a mastermind group, I suggest join a mastermind group. There are a lot of resources there that are going to help you move forward. But so yes, the biggest challenge is getting my message out there. Selling Vital Germaine is for me the biggest challenge.
Okay, and I think a lot of us fall in the same boat. Just like myself, I fall in the exact same boat as, how do I sell either Kevin Dunlap or Plentiful Perspectives? How do I get myself out there? That's when I start doing things like this podcast here, as just another method for me to get my name out there, get my message out there, but also to help promote other entrepreneurs. And then hopefully, let's say in your case, if somebody's listening to the show and they resonate with you and they say, we need a corporate trainer, now they can go and possibly look you up and look at some of your videos on YouTube, see your technique, and if it fits within their corporate structure, or even if it does not, they can hire you. So I would say for anybody that's getting their message out there, you've got to go out there with your own bullhorn and announce to the world.
One shift that I've taken recently, and it's through advice from very, very successful speakers and business owners, is instead of trying to sell, I started focusing on what value can I bring to people. And as a result of that value, the selling starts to happen organically by default. So that was my shift in focus. Try not to sell, just bring value.
Correct, because nobody wants to be sold.
No, if I feel I'm getting sold to, I shut down. That's the way business is becoming. The modern consumer is not interested in having a sales pitch. They want to know what's in it for me. What can I benefit from what you're offering?
Well, I know one of the ways that you're trying to help promote yourself is right now you're in the process of writing your third book. Now, you have two books out there. The first one was called Flying Without a Net, and then the second book was called Flying Without a Net 2.0. So I guess that's your second edition of the book. Yeah. Now, what was the purpose of the second edition? Then we'll talk about your third.
Well, actually, it's not a second edition. It's a sequel.
Oh, okay.
So Flying Without a Net was the first book. 2.0 is basically the continuation of that story. Flying Without a Net comes from the perspective partly as Vital Germaine as a child overcoming incredible challenges, getting introduced to the American dream, living the American dream, And then 2.0 is now Vital, the adult, the entrepreneur, the business owner. How have I implemented some of those lessons to propel me forward? So that's 2.0. So very clear, they're two separate books,
Okay.
1 and 2 being the sequel. The third book is somewhat of a continuation, but this book is not a memoir. It's not about me. It's purely designed to help people tap into what I call their inner genius. And it's all built on the premise of our creativity. And when I use the word creativity, the misconception of that word is a lot of people think, well, I'm not creative. What they really mean is they're not artistic. So when people tell themselves, I'm not creative, they're limiting their possibilities by saying, I don't have the ability to come up with new ideas, to adapt, to change. So this book is really about how do you tap into your inner creative and start to identify new opportunities, adapt your lifestyle, become a better problem solver, take more risks, adapt. So that's what the essence of this book is about. And it's inspired by a quote by Albert Einstein, who says that logic will take you from A to B, imagination will take you everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, that's one thing. Albert Einstein had a lot of, I would call it like woo-woo kind of quotes that he's known for, even though he's still considered one of the smartest men of history. But he had a lot of those concepts, just like the one about insanity. And I know he's got at least 3-4 other extremely creative quotes.
Well, what is the insanity one? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome?
Yes.
Is insanity or something? Yeah.
That's insanity.
But going into Albert Einstein as a creative thinker, he didn't create any form of art, but he was a creative thinker. He saw beyond limitations. He had no ceiling. He expanded his horizons beyond what is standard thought. So imagine if people can see beyond what they think are their limitations, what society imposes on us. If you can see beyond that, you are now empowered to become so much more. Mm-hmm. And so that's the message of the book.
Okay. Now, do you have like techniques and stuff that you explain in the book, or?
Yes, there are some strategies that you can develop, strengthen, stimulate your creative thinking. Creativity, like everything else, it's a tool. If you practice something often enough and consistently enough, you master it. You go to the gym, you work on biceps, your biceps will become stronger. You go and take a Pilates class and stretch, your muscles will become more stretched. So part of the book is also, yes, teaching people how do you stretch your mind, how do you strengthen your creativity, how do you have quicker access to it. So it's going to be hopefully a mind-opening book for people.
Okay. And when do you plan on having it released?
It's almost finished, and then there's the process, of course, of rewriting it, getting it edited and stuff like that. So I'm hoping I'm going to go out on a limb here and hold me accountable for this, Kevin. I'm going to commit to March as the release date.
That's going to be March 2018.
March 2018. You heard it first here on Kevin Dunlop. Yeah.
Well, because I could surely attest about writing a book, because I've written 2 books as well. And the second book is the one that's called Designing Your Own Destiny. And that took me, after I wrote the first draft, I wrote a second draft, I wrote a third draft, I wrote a fourth draft. Then I went to the editor and went through one rewrite, the second rewrite, a third rewrite, even a fourth rewrite. So for those of you out there, writing a book, it's not that streamlined of a process. It can be a large time commitment.
Yeah.
So,
but like everything, if you want to achieve something, you've got to be consistent. You've got to commit. You've got to be dedicated. And sometimes there are days when I want to, even though it's on a digital format, I want to tear up the book. I want to burn it. And no, this is a piece of crap. Nobody's going to read it. And then you just put it aside. You let go, and then you come back to it with fresh energy. But that's life. You get knocked down 7 times, you get back up 8. Mm-hmm. And but something you mentioned though, a lot of people think, oh yeah, I'd love to write a book. Oh, it's a poetic notion. It's going to be beautiful, and people are going to love me, and I'm going to be a bestseller. It's a lot of work. Yes. It is a lot of work.
And what is your goal? How many pages or how many words are you going after?
I'm aiming for approximately 22,000 words. I don't know how that translates into pages, because that's determined. There is a format on how you translate words into pages. Mm-hmm. I would imagine this is a copy of Flying Without a Net 2.0. That is about 20,000 words. So that's how thick that book is. So I'm looking to have about a book of the same size.
That's about 100, 110, 120 pages.
I think you're spot on. It's 119 pages, so it'll be in that vicinity. I want it to be an easy, informative, inspiring reader. I don't want it to be War and Peace.
Okay. Because when I was writing my book, I was actually, because I hired a coach to write the book, help me write the book. And it ended up, he was saying between 50 and 60,000 words because my goal was between 250 and 300 pages.
Yeah.
So, and my book is like 270 something pages and it's right around 60,000 words. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to understand what the objective is of your book. I made a decision that I prefer the book to be on the shorter side rather than the long side, but everybody has to go with what is right for them. Going back to your pink glasses.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing is the next time I write a book, before my third book, I would most likely go more along the lines of 25, 30,000, go about half that size.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, now I guess we're going to be moving into the lessons and upbeat moments. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience about anything that you've gone through as an entrepreneur or anything like that you haven't already covered, or if you want to recap on something you did cover?
Being an entrepreneur, again, it's this sort of romantic notion that we have a free life, we do what we want when we want, and a part of that is true. But the other challenge of being an entrepreneur is that you never technically switch off. Like, I always feel that I'm working, even if let's say I'm at a show, I'm going to see a movie. Intellectually, there are things that are happening in the movie that I'm connecting to how I can implement that in what I do. We're never off the books. We're always hustling, trying to get the next gig. And it can be very, very exhausting. Mm-hmm. So the challenge is as an entrepreneur is, and I'm doing this more and more, is to take a timeout where I literally shut my office door, I close my computer, and I tell myself I am disconnecting. I'm going to go away for the weekend. I'm going to go into nature. I'm going to recharge. I'm going to just revitalize. And it's something entrepreneurs need to do more often. Let go and come back with a new perspective. And in doing this more frequently, I'm realizing I'm actually more focused and I gain more clarity. Because always working, focused, stressing out, it's not good. To optimize our performance, we've got to have a balance between mind, body, spirit. So I'm taking more time out.
Okay, and that's good to say because I've actually discussed this with a couple of my clients in the past as well. If there's a deadline and you're working real hard and you need to get it done, is you'll be more productive if you took 5 and 10 minute breaks.
Yes. And it actually works in the corporate world. I encourage that after, let's say, a 2-hour stretch of work, take a break, do 5 minutes of brisk walking, get the blood flowing back to your brain, come back with clarity, and you'll find that you have more focus and you'll achieve a lot more because you're working more efficiently, more effectively. So yes, I totally agree.
Okay. So it may go against, common sense, but yeah, because your brain does need that break. So
yes.
Okay.
And then another quick tip is take the time to daydream. We sort of, everybody tells us, what was I doing? I was daydreaming. I wasn't focused. Daydreaming is a really valuable tool to provide you with clarity and answers. So if you find yourself daydreaming, embrace it.
Okay.
And if your boss tells you there's a problem with that, tell him Vital Germaine said so. Send it my way. I'll take care of it. Daydreaming is good.
Or let's just go to the bathroom and daydream in there. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, where do you see yourself in the next 12 to 24 months with you and your business?
It will be a continuation of where I'm going. The vision is ultimately, I would love to be in a position where I can be much more selective of the jobs that I take. So it's working more, less work, more money. I once read a really good book called $1 Million Consulting. And the essence of the book is he elevated his price, his rates, and he traveled less, which meant he had more quality time with his family. And so I'd love to be in a position where my reputation is the determining factor why people hire me, where basically people will find me. I'm no longer hustling so much to get my word out there. People know who I am by, of course, a reputation of delivering excellence and providing value. So that's the goal. In 2 years from now, people find me and I will decide, I'll work with you guys. I won't work with you guys. So that would be a luxury.
Okay, fantastic. And actually, I have a very similar dream myself. And there's a previous person that I interviewed. Her name is Galena. She's, I think it was like episode number 9. And she's a personal coach, and she's all about basically only selling like $5,000 and higher coaching clients. So you may not get as many clients, but you don't need as many clients. If you're doing $500 at a client and a $5,000, if you can get one versus 5 or 7 of those other ones, you're actually still out ahead, or even 1 in 10, because you're still saving that time, even though the dollar amount's the same. So,
I'd like to view myself as the Bentley of the keynote world, where people are willing to pay a large chunk of money because they know that the journey is going to be a very luxurious, comfortable, and impressive one.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I did not know about that. So, Vital, we're getting close to the very end of the show. Now, normally I like to say, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Vital Germaine across the board. So vitalgermaine.com is my website. All social media, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, it's all Vital Germaine.
And that's spelled V as in Victor, I-T as in Tom, A-L, G as in girl, E-R, M as in Mary, AINE.com. Okay. So I want to make sure that they put the E on the end, because sometimes I forget if it does or doesn't.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, of course. And any last words that you would like to share with the audience before we depart?
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to share, and I'm going to use an Albert Einstein quote, is imagination is intelligence having fun. So the big part of the journey as entrepreneurs is we're so caught up in the work, and sometimes we forget to breathe, laugh, and enjoy and have fun on the journey. When we're having fun, we actually open the door to optimum performance. So smile, have fun, share some love, share more laughter.
And take more breaks.
I'll take more breaks. That's it. Yeah.
That was Vital putting his red nose back on for the second time in this interview. Those of you that are just listening in. Well, anyway, Vital, it was a pleasure having you here. You shared a lot of great information, took a lot of good notes here. I'm looking forward to holding you accountable for your book coming out by March.
Thank you for that, Kevin.
And thank you for the other book referral, The $1 Million Consulting. I had not heard that book yet, so I would probably see about either getting the audio or the printed version of that book.
Yeah, it's a good book. Kevin, thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and continued success with what you're doing.
My pleasure. So everybody, this is vitalgermaine.com, and Vital, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Bye, Kevin.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And for those of you that are looking for an entrepreneur coach, give myself a call by just going to our website at www.kevinadunlap.com. Go to the Contact Us portion, fill out your name and email, send us an email as to when you are available, and then we will schedule a time for your free 30-minute consultation call. Again, that is at www.kevinadunlap.com. And thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit kevinadunlap.com, facebook.com/kevinadunlap.author, and on Twitter @Kevin A. Dunlap. We'll catch you on the next episode of Life's Little Lessons.